Hello, everyone. It's really great to join you today for this Live Well Advance. We're so proud to participate with our team in this program on an issue of most importance, equity and social justice. I'm Summer Steffen. I have the honor of serving as San Diego County's District Attorney. And the real people that are behind this program, you're going to hear directly from Martine Arias, Romiana Khoury, and Thelma Mubaya. And they are the stars of the show. What I want to introduce is this new concept that the District Attorney's Office has embarked on, this journey. And this journey that we've been on it for a few years now. And so we feel that we have some data to share and some real information to share with the community about these efforts. So traditionally, the way we think about public safety, to kind of summarize and set this up, is that public safety is kind of mostly involved in the arrest of individuals that commit crimes that harm the community. And then the district attorney's office is involved in the prosecution of those individuals where the evidence is there to prove that they've committed a certain harm. And the district attorney's office has that jurisdiction countywide as the people's prosecutor. Well, as we continue with this constitutional duty that we have to enforce and to ethically prosecute crime, we wanted to look at the idea, the kind of innovative idea is, what if you could also invest energy in preventing crime from happening in the first place, in crime prevention? How would that look like, and what would that do? And obviously the answer is that is the real win, because you're coming in before you have a victim to have to protect and to have to pick up the pieces and look at their lifelong trauma and help them to just even breathe and get up and not feel fear. What would that look like to not have to extract somebody from their family, from their kids, and incarcerate them? If you could actually set up something where you invest energy in crime prevention, then what you're really doing is you are supporting a true mission of fair and equal justice for all. And this is where this concept that developed in the first of its kind crime prevention hub that is part of the district attorney's office, that we both affectionately and in reality call the care center. How appropriate is that? And in that care center, we provide the care of, in an evidence-based way, looking and assessing, and you're going to hear in detail about this, what are the factors for not just this individual, but for their family potentially dynamics that would help them not recidivate. Recidivate means commit crimes again or be engaged in this behavior that causes harm in the community. What would that look like? And over time, we created a new classification that never existed before of crime prevention specialists. And these crime prevention specialists that you're going to hear from directly engage in the community, listen, ask the questions, and then engage other partners in the community to provide culturally sensitive, ethnically appropriate ways of doing effective crime prevention and coming alongside in order to build safe and healthy communities in partnership with the community we serve. So as has repeatedly been said, and said best by Dr. Martin Luther King, You know, an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so being able to serve to remove injustices, to smooth the path, to provide equal opportunity for people to live thriving lives is so important, and it cannot be done by prosecution alone, by the protection of victims alone, because both those things come after the harm has already occurred, but also by prevention that comes before the harm is going to occur, to extract that person out of that path and surround them with the resources, with the right surrounding blocks, if you will, to help them find their true self, their true humanity and dignity, and integrate in the community. So it's our honor to present here today, and you're going to now hear about the details of how this magic happens in our community that supports equity and social justice.
Thank you so much for this great opening of our session. So we're going to introduce ourselves, all of us here. My name is Romiana Khoury, and I'm crime prevention specialist with the District Attorney's Office, and I'm assigned to the East County region.
Hello, everyone. My name is Martin Arias. I am the crime prevention specialist that is assigned to South County.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Salma Mubaiwa, and I'm the crime prevention specialist for the North County area. And just as we heard earlier from our amazing keynote speaker, Travian Shorters, he discussed equity. And so we would really like to expand on that today. And we're really here to talk to you about equity and social justice. And so today we will share our approach for creating appropriate and tailored solutions to community identified needs. You will learn how to provide services for the community in the community by attending collaborative meetings, listening to stakeholders, and using a multidisciplinary team to address individual as well as community needs in an equitable way. After this session, we hope that you will understand the importance of building community partnerships to link individuals to resources, also the importance of hiring a culturally diverse team, and finally, we'll explain to you our Care Center program and its evidence-based approaches to community recovery, crime prevention, and intervention. At any time, if you have questions, please feel free to enter them into the chat box, and we will make sure to answer them at the end of our presentation. There are so many different definitions for crime prevention. The United Nations Guideline for Prevention of Crime defined it as strategies and measures that seek to reduce the risk of crimes occurring and their potential harms and effects on individuals and society, including fear of crime, by intervening to influence those multiple causes. And this is essentially the aim of the work that we do. And one of our main goals is to increase the feelings of safety in a community, which is why we focus on the effects of prevention. We not only want to focus on what's working, but really we want to dive deeper into understanding why it works, for whom, and in what settings. Only then can we implement.
There are many types of crime prevention. For example, environmental design, which is changing the physical environment. That would be like installing more streetlights around an area where there are high levels of crime. We, on the other hand, are focusing on locally based crime prevention, which focuses on the neighborhood and the people who live in it. Locally based crime prevention is defined as changing the conditions that influence offending, victimization, and insecurity caused by crime. Research has also shown us that one key risk factor for youth is the socioeconomic status of the neighborhoods that they live in. The concept of crime prevention via focusing on the neighborhood is more than implementing programs in a neighborhood and providing services to the residents. This is more about using a restorative approach and working with the residents to make them part of the initiative. Most importantly, we are bringing law enforcement resources, or quote unquote, criminal justice dollars to the community, especially the underserved communities, and reallocating those dollars for social services. It is not enough to just do community policing or just build community partnerships. Research shows us that we must do both in order to be most effective. We chose the risk needs responsivity model, which you'll learn about more in a second, which allows us to identify the appropriate dosage. Research shows us that you cannot mix an individual with a low risk level with an individual with a high risk level. That is because if you mix the two different populations, the low level will ultimately end up at the end of the process higher risk. There's also not a one size fits all model. And so if we provide risk appropriate services, research shows us that we should result in lower recidivism levels. Community context is typically ignored in individual treatment plans. Often, we provide successful individual treatment, and while that is great, nearly all of these folks return to the same environment after treatment. Therefore, we must examine community risks and needs and focus on access to services so that we can provide community recovery. We are looking at addressing crime with an ecosystem-like view. We cannot change individuals unless we address the communities in which they reside in, and they change as well.
At the DA's office, we examined a study done by the Center for Evidence-Based Corrections at the University of California, Irvine in 2005, 2006, that was done here in California. This study looked into several social environmental elements and social service agency characteristics in a neighborhood context to understand what affects the recidivism rate, which ultimately results in imprisonment. As you can see here, the study looked mainly at the social capital in the neighborhood, such as employment, family services, housing, and substance abuse treatment, as well as looking at how the social context and accessibility of social services affect successful integration into society. It also showed us that the presence of more social service providers nearby led to lower recidivism rate. The next slide. Okay, so according to this research, an increase in the presence of nearby social service providers within 2 miles radius decreases the likelihood of recidivating by 41%. This effect was strong, particularly for African-American parolees. In addition to that, the neighborhood with higher concentrated disadvantage and social disorder, like having bars and liquor stores capacity, increases recidivism by 26%. So the findings suggest that the social context to which parolees return to, both in their own neighborhood and in nearby neighborhoods, as well as the geographic accessibility of social service agencies, play a vital role in their successful reintegration in society. So based on various crime prevention research, studies, and models, we aim to create one-stop shop to decrease agency time and utilize the risk needs responsibility model at an individual and, more important, at a community level. So the DA's office met with the community stakeholders for 2 years before the care center even opened. In these meetings, community members informed us of what types of activities should be available. They came up with the evidence-based assessments idea and the referrals process, the need for community meeting spaces, resources, easy service navigation, and even the mission and vision of the office, as well as the name of the center, were all created by the community. So our meetings with the stakeholders resulted in opening this one-stop shop community center and named it CARE. And CARE stands for Community Action, Resource, and Engagement. Typically, as a government agency, it's a lot easier to go into a community space with a solid vision, mission, and idea of how to partner with the community. But we decided to flip that model. We wanted to create the process where the community told us what needs to be done and became our advisors in determining what we do and how we operate at Care Center. Yes, this process takes us longer time to develop, but it's more effective in servicing a community, and you end up having a true partnership. So we chose this location, as you can see here in the picture. We chose this location at the South County because we looked at the demographics and the neighborhood, and basically looked at everything we discussed in the research I talked about a few minutes ago. We looked at the numbers of parolees and probationers in the neighborhood, the number of 211 phone calls, gang lines to try and not miss some folks, the numbers of veterans in the area. Also, we are close to the bus stop, which is really important for our clients. We actually based everything we do here on two things, which is community needs and research. And these are the two foundations of everything we do at the DA's Care Center. And it helps us to know that whatever we're going to do is going to work. The operation hours are unique too, as you can see here. And also because most of the time we have organizations that may use our space past 6 p.m. or on the weekend. So we're flexible in that way and work around the community's needs. This space was purposefully chosen to be relatively small to create the sense of safety, connectedness, and comfort when an individual comes into our building. And more important, unlike when you go into any other building to receive a service, and instead of having rules, we decided to have principles. And as you can see, it's a big board that we have in the entrance so that our clients can see it once they get into our building. So we decided to have these principles that we all abide by, not just the public. We're being respectful, honest, kind, grateful, and responsible in the way we want to treat people. This is a trauma-informed way of doing business. So we avoid telling people, do this or don't do that, and things like that, but rather just be respectful, honest, kind, and responsible when they enter our building. This way, we're encouraging our participants to show positive behavior. Upon opening the center, we had several community meetings to work on the mission and vision statements. The word equity that you see in the vision was a big issue because now equity is the buzzword. But a few years ago, it was a very challenging concept. We had a lot of people talking about equality versus equity. Some people just didn't want to be perceived as given special treatment and rather just be treated equally. However, others thought more needs to be given to a certain population to create the balance and fairness among all. At the end of the day, the reality remains that some communities need more than others. Hence, the equity concept was still included here. The community did push us, and we had to honor that in our mission and vision statements. Just to quickly, you can see it here, the vision actually says, meeting the community's need to achieve full equity, and the office's mission is building community partnerships to link resources by using a holistic approach to improve the well-being of all. And the objective is provide intervention and prevention services for the community, in the community. Yes, it was uncomfortable for us to do all these meetings and to come up with this with these statements. However, we grew with the community, and that is where our success comes from. And maybe even Martin can talk more about it and share his experience, because Martin was actually at these meetings when they happened.
Thank you, Romy. Yeah, so as you can see, there's less than 40 words here in our vision, mission, and objective. But just to come up with those 40 or so words, it took us over 3 different meetings. And as Romy mentioned, we could have just came into the community with our own vision, mission, objective. We could have sat there for 2 or 3 hours and hammered it out. And then, it would have been so much easier, but we would have never gotten the buy-in from the community. And so that buy-in is a very, very key piece and component of what we're doing at the care center. So much so that when we initially planned on opening the care center, there were talks of protest occurring because at the end of the day, we are the district attorney's office. And, you know, if you ask almost anybody what the district attorney's office does, the overwhelming majority will say that we prosecute people, which is correct. However, our intention was not to prosecute out of the care center. And so in having that buy-in from these stakeholders, they were the ones who kept us safe from these protests. And they were the ones who went out and advocated on our behalf so that when the grand opening came, there were no protests and we were able to provide adequate services to the community.
And just to quickly note before going back to Thelma and dig deeper into what we do here, I wanted to mention that these same stakeholders are still working with us. We report out to them. They make sure we are still on track and we engage them in all that we do at the care center, at the DA's care. Thelma.
So now that you've heard a little bit about the research that we use and the data we put together, I'm pretty sure you're wondering what exactly is it that you do at the care center. So we assess individuals for risk and need for adults and youth, and then we provide them with resources that will meet their individual needs. And when we first got to the care center, there was no assessment that uncovered the risk and need specific to the communities that we serve. So we ended up partnering up with UCSD to create an evidence-based assessment for our population. And you know, this assessment is designed to uncover the most basic and individual needs of each participant that we serve. And those needs could be anywhere from housing, employment, mental health, clothing, food, and many more. And once this need is assessed, we created a voucher system, which not only allows us to refer to service providers in the community, but the district attorney's office itself is paying for the services as well. And this is how we're using the criminal justice dollars to partner up with local-based service providers to connect to individuals in the community and provide them services. And as Martin mentioned earlier, because we are the district attorney's office, a great majority of people only think that it's just prosecution that we do out of our office, you know, but our office is committed to 3 Ps. We're committed to prosecution of individuals who do commit crimes, protecting victims of these crimes, as well as prevention. And we are the 3rd leg of that, we are prevention. So we do not prosecute out of the care center. So when you first come to the care center, you will not see police officers, you will not see security, because we use those guiding principles that Romiana mentioned earlier that the community follows as well as our team follows as well. Most of the referral, most of the services that we provide out of the care center actually happen from word of mouth. So we'll have family members that have come to the care center, have gotten assessed and have gotten some of these services, and they share this information with their family and friends. Or you can have individuals that are involved in gangs, individuals that were previously involved in the criminal justice system. And as Martin mentioned earlier, you know, the neighborhood vouches for us. And in turn, our center is safe and untouched. And people feel comfortable coming to the care center. Our hope is really to encourage those positive behaviors, you know, to the community. So in turn, they can take those behaviors and put them into the community. You know, as we mentioned earlier, it's really not just enough to do community-based policing, and it's not just enough to build collaborative partnerships. You have to do both to be more effective for crime prevention services. At the end of the day, the work that we do increases the feeling of safety in the community. And, you know, working in a national city, it was important that we hire a team that is reflective of the community that we serve. So we're talking about the physical, the socioeconomical, and experiential inclusivity when it comes to hiring. As you can see here, we have a pretty diverse team presenting to you today. You know, when you're working with communities of color, you have to build trust when you're providing services. We have a very short window to bridge that gap and to create that relationship. And this is why it is critical to understand the cultural and historical context of the communities that you serve. You know, our staff is comprised of individuals that grew up in the community, individuals that attended the local high schools here in San Diego, even down to speaking different languages in order for us to connect with our participants. We want our participants to not only feel comfortable when they come to the care center, but we want them to feel seen. And, you know, for example, I was conducting an assessment one day for an individual, a male came in, an African male, and he looked a little uncomfortable, a little hesitant when I was doing the assessment for him. And so I started sharing a little bit about my story. And I shared with him that, you know, I was born in Zimbabwe, and, you know, my whole family, we're all from Zimbabwe. We grew up in Africa. And immediately you could see he got comfortable and he felt, you know, he felt safe, and it helped the trajectory of the rest of the assessment that we conducted. And in order for us to do any of this, our entire staff is trained. So as soon as you get hired, you know, down from the office assistant to the crime prevention specialist, even to our director, everyone is trained on all of the trainings that you see here before you. So we have trauma-informed care, motivational interviewing, diversity and inclusivity, crisis intervention training. You know, and the reason that we do this is because our assessments uncover deep vulnerabilities with our participants, and it's important that our team is trained in order to work with the participants that we serve. We have a small but effective team. We have our director who manages the big picture and executive functioning at our care center. Then we have our office manager and our administrator, and they run the office. They make sure that everything is working smoothly so we can continue to do the work that we do. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have police officers and we don't have security. So they serve as our informal security. As soon as you walk into the care center, the first person you will see will be our office manager or our office administrator. And then you have the three of us. We are the crime prevention specialist, and we have one more as well who is for the Central San Diego. And we are extensions of the office in the community. And the importance of having us in the community is to build those partnerships and to create connections with the community. And when you see us, I'm sure there are a few of you here that have seen us in meetings. Our main job is to simply listen. We want to know what the community needs and what our office can do to help. We do not believe in attending meetings and saying, you know, this is the issue, this is what you need to fix. Our main job is to listen. We also have a housing and transportation specialist. You know, we do not provide housing and we do not have money for housing. However, we work with third-party service providers who do. And our housing and transportation specialist has really spent time building these relationships and connecting with local service providers that provide housing in the community. And what they do is they will assist us in providing housing for our participants, and then we will provide the wraparound services for those participants. We also have our reentry liaison, and he specifically works with the reentry population and is developing those connections and networks to help to provide stability for individuals that are reentering the society after leaving the criminal justice system. Our staff is extremely competent. We are all evidence-based assessors, and we can all fill in for one another. You know, an office administrator at the care center can do the same thing that a crime prevention specialist can do as far as assessments and projects.
So now that you've learned about our team and what it is that we do, I do want to highlight a little bit about our equitable community partnerships and how those came to be. And so, as we all know, more often than not, small grassroots community-based organizations do not make the cut for county RFPs or RFSQs. This could be because they simply don't have the adequate insurance coverage, or simply because they miss deadlines because they don't have a full-time dedicated grant writer on staff. We work diligently with county procurement to restructure a process that would give all organizations the opportunity to participate in our process. Today, we want to give a shout out to county procurement because they came out during our process and provided several technical assistance trainings for these organizations. They also helped many of our current community-based organization partners sign up for BINET, which we all know can be a bit daunting. Additionally, we want to highlight the district attorney's administration team. They made themselves available throughout the entire process to help address any issues that applicants had. Changing county policy is not easy or timely, but if we're serious about equity, then we must change. I also wanted to highlight an organization that we work with currently, Open Hearts Leaders. Many of you may know April Laster. Her organization, when she first started working with us, was very small and had very limited capacity. During our process, she was able to acquire more staff. She was able to even get a brand new building that she works out of on Euclid here in Southeast San Diego. And now she's actually working on being able to accept different types of insurance policies and providers so that she can continue to give mental health counseling and training to the community, which so desperately needs it and deserves it.
And what you see here are 3 of the youth programs that have been created through our prevention department. We have Community Youth Court, and I'm actually the coordinator for Community Youth Court. And it's for youth that come into contact with law enforcement. And instead of having them go to juvenile hall, they go through our diversion program. And this is our alternative to the official court process. Once we make contact with the youth, we do the San Diego Risk and Resiliency Checkup 2 assessment, which was provided to us by probation. And following the assessment, we use the results to do a restorative panel. And we use restorative justice, restorative practices because, you know, once the youth comes into contact with us, a relationship in the community has been harmed. And so we work with myself, a police officer, and the community elders, and we meet with the family to offer wraparound services to help to restore that relationship that has been harmed. After the panel, we create a 90-day contract and refer out to the service providers that are in the community for the family to have access to. Once they've completed their 90-day contract, they graduate. And after they've completed the program, there is nothing on their record. We also have Project Roots, which was formerly known as Girls Only. And this program was created to address the root causes of gender-based violence, including commercial sexual exploitation, sex trafficking, rape, domestic violence, and sexual assault in the local context of San Diego. This toolkit serves as a guide for implementing a gender-specific, culturally responsive, and developmentally appropriate prevention education for boys and girls ages of 8 and 13. And the goal of working with youth during this critical period of childhood and adolescence is to model the soft skills that are necessary as they physically and developmentally mature. And the 3 overarching themes for Project Roots are empathy, empowerment, and equality. And last but not least, we have the Youth Advisory Board. In 2008, actually, the San Diego District Attorney's Office came to Lincoln High School to meet with a group of students after the death of two promising teens in the Lincoln Park community. And they really wanted to know, how can we tackle issues that are affecting youth in San Diego the most? And so after that meeting, they created the Youth Advisory Board, which is comprised of all high school students. And they not only identify the problems that are affecting students, but also the challenges that students find, also the challenges that students face, and finding the solutions through mentorship and mutual advising. You know, and these programs show you how you can really invest into your communities and the participants you serve. You know, I was one of the very first original members of the Youth Advisory Board when I was a freshman at Lincoln High School. And I remember switching schools 2 years later, and I told them, I was like, you will not get rid of me. And I stayed true to my word, because I am now a full-time employee of the District Attorney's Office. And this is the power of prevention, right? We have a group of people that surrounded me and provided me with service and love. And I grew up to be, you know, a crime prevention specialist working out of the District Attorney's Office talking about prevention. So, you know, this is just another way to really focus on investing in your community.
Additionally, we have a Veterans Empowerment Program. As Romiana mentioned earlier, we did an asset mapping of the community, and we identified that in the community where the care center is currently located, there are a plethora and a wealth of different veterans and people who have served this country, but there aren't very many services for them in this community. And so we have one of my colleagues, Danielle Fair, who specifically, you know, amongst all the other things that she does, focuses on helping these veterans gain access to different services. And so in the past, I know that she doesn't necessarily fill out the DD-214, but if the veterans have all their documentation and we can help them log into the application, and then we can walk them through that process and together help them gain access to their services and benefits and all of those great things. I wanted to turn it over very quickly here to Romiana to talk about the Interfaith Advisory Board, as she is the coordinator of that.
Sure. So the Interfaith Advisory Board consists of faith leaders from different religious backgrounds here in San Diego, which includes the Muslim community, the Sikh, and the different Christian denominations, in addition to law enforcement representatives and representatives from the DA's office. And a lot of times also we have the DA, San Diego DA Summer Stephen, actually facilitating these meetings. So the board meets monthly at the care center. During the COVID now, we actually switched to telehealth and we're doing it virtually. During these meetings, this is like a platform for these faith leaders to voice their community's concerns and work on solution-oriented initiatives to address the needs they identify as public safety issues. When the members express also a desire to learn more about a specific issue or topic, the DA's office facilitates having speakers from different governmental, law enforcement, and educational sectors to come over and provide necessary training, education, and also answer questions in an effort to maintain good communication amongst our faith groups here in San Diego. Martin.
Thank you, Romy. And last but not least, we have our Homeless Victims Outreach Program. As Thelma mentioned earlier with the 3 Ps, we do protect our victims as well. And so we try to assess and refer individuals to different services ranging from emergency shelter advocacy programs, information about just victims' rights in general, child support services, and emotional support. As we all know, being a victim can be very traumatic, and sometimes we just have no way of really knowing what types of resources are out there and readily available for us. And so we do a great job in connecting those victims to resources as well, alongside some of our victim advocates as well from the DA's office. And I wanted to just briefly talk about our resource fairs. Some of you may have heard of them. Some of you may have participated in them. I personally absolutely love them. I want to give a shout out to my colleague, Danielle Fair, who coordinates these, does an amazing job pre-COVID and post-COVID. And I'll talk a little bit about what that means in a sec. But pre-COVID, we typically have a food distribution that occurs on the 3rd Saturday of each month. And it's a very dignified event. We like to call it a farmer's market food style distribution because on that day, community members are able to bring in their own bags, their own grocery bags. And then just like a farmer's market, there's fresh produce, there's protein, there's some canned goods, some dry goods, things of that nature. And then they're able to kind of pick everything that they need. And at the end of the day, it's all free. And then, you know, Danielle had this great idea of merging a resource fair with our food distribution. And so on this day, we have just probably like 20 to 25 different service providers. And the hook still is the food, I will say. Community members mainly come for the food, but when they leave, they are so happy that they came and they were kind of quote unquote forced to go into the resources, because a lot of times people don't know what types of resources are available to them. And so in not knowing, you don't have access to them. And at least if you know, and you're able to kind of walk through and just kind of see, oh, I didn't know that they had this type of service for me, or, you know what, I know somebody who needs this, I can maybe take them a pamphlet or a flyer. And in that way, you know, we're able to get resources out in the community. I also wanted to talk about, you know, the amount of outreach that goes into this program and to the preparation of this. So as you all heard, the crime prevention specialists, we go out into meetings, we go out into the community, we listen, we try to bridge gaps, and we try to just take as many resources out of the community. And so right before the resource fair, I want to say maybe like 2 or 3 weeks before the resource fair, we do this really big push where we print probably 500 or so flyers, and we take them out into the community and we distribute them. We not only take them to meetings, but we also put them up at you know, laundry mats. We put them up at grocery stores. We just like anywhere and any place you can think of, we put them at rec centers. I think some of us have even taken them to like DMV. We've taken them everywhere, places that you just wouldn't imagine. Like that's where we go. And in that, there's a huge sense of equity because people go, like, let's say you go to the DMV, you don't expect to see a flyer about being able to get food there or resources. And, you know, oftentimes we're rushing to the DMV, we're in and out. And it's really great because then you know that on this, you know, quarterly basis, you're able to go to this one place and get all of these great resources. So shout out to the team for doing that. And it's a really great process and a really great way of doing business, to be honest. Now, post-COVID, I mentioned that earlier, we had a virtual fair, and it was during the entire month of October. There was a domestic violence awareness component to it. There was a breast cancer awareness component to it. And every single day during the month of October, there was a presentation or a video of some sort of anecdote. There was all sorts of prizes. So it was really great. We had really high numbers of attendance to that as well. So just, I think like the overarching theme, I think, of what we do is just staying consistent and always being there for the community when they most need it. So that is kind of who we are. I know I'll come back to this in a second. And then at the very end, we have some resources for all of the research, or sorry, not resources. I'm so stuck in that mindset. It's references for all of the research that we talked about today. And, you know, if you have any questions, we will address them in a second. But if you have any questions that we don't, or, you know, maybe something you want to send us an email, you want more information, I highly encourage you to save our emails, you know, just for future reference. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right, is what they say. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here for a quick second, and then we can see if there are any questions about our program.
Also, Martin, you forgot to share the references.
I will share them in a second, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there's some questions coming in here in the Q&A. So I see Robin asking, are other counties and communities doing the same thing that you guys are doing? I live in El Cajon. Do you want to field that question, Romy?
We're doing kind of the same thing in East County, because we're there to also attend a lot of collaborative meetings. We're there to listen to the community. We've held stakeholders over there, with the DA actually being there, and representatives from law enforcement to listen to the community needs and concerns. We're not actually there physically. We don't have a care center over there. As of now, we have it in Southeast San Diego area. But we actually, if somebody has a questions, they need referrals to services, they can come to us if they have questions regarding like domestic violence situations. Somebody has some situation, they can actually contact me or any of us actually, even if one of the organizations, they know somebody else from the team, they can actually get in contact with them. We are aware of the different services and resources available in East County that actually we can refer people to, or like get them in contact if they have questions for the DA's office also. We can get the people in contact with the appropriate department here so that they can get the answer for whatever they ask in, whatever situation it is.
Absolutely. And then I see also that Mary asked if we have more than one care center. And so at the moment, we only have one care center, which is located on the corner of Division and Euclid in National City. But we do service all of South County. And the intent really is to hopefully one day be able to provide service to the entire county, or countywide rather. I'm kind of jumping back and forth here. I see Rashid, they asked, how do you cover the language barriers between your office and other communities in San Diego County? Thelma, I'll let you field that question there.
Just to quickly say, that's Rashid Isa from International Rescue Committee.
Yes.
IRC.
So the way we try to navigate through the language barriers is one, once again, I mentioned, hiring a culturally diverse team. So I want to say that we haven't encountered a language yet that one of our team members did not speak. And if we cannot, we do the best of our ability to connect with those individuals in whatever capacity we can. And then we also use a language line to be able to have a translator actually answer those questions if we have to use a language line to do an assessment, and that's what we'll do. And then and I'm gonna hop on top of this too. I see another question from Penny Moreau, who asked, have you been in operation long enough to share some success stories? I can share one success story in particular that to this day has me shaken to my core. As I mentioned earlier, I'm the coordinator for Community Youth Court, and we were doing a panel for a young man who had broken a relationship, harmed someone in the community, and they were here to meet with us. And in the beginning half of the session, you can tell he was completely checked out. He did not want to be there. His family was there, and something was just off. And so I stopped the session in the middle of the panel, and I was just like, what is going on? And he ended up sharing with us that his entire family was homeless. He was sleeping in a car. His parents were sleeping in a car, and he had 4 siblings, and they were all homeless. And what we did was, all the panelists, I called in our team members, and we were like, get on the phones, we need to figure something out. And we were able to provide this entire family with wraparound services, housing, clothing, mental health, food, and it was just as simple as stopping, listening, asking, and then taking action.
Okay. Let's see. I see Agnes asks, does the care center have outreach in City Heights? So as of right now, I don't think we have any outreach in City Heights, but if there's certainly anything that we need to be doing there, we are certainly interested in participating in that. So Agnes, I'm going to type my answer here. I'm going to type in my email address. And if you have anything for us in that region, and I know there's a lot of resource there in that community, but we can never have enough. So if you would like to send me some information about maybe some of the things that you see going on in City Heights, we would be more than happy to address them. Luis is asking, do you serve undocumented folks as well? If so, how are you building trust with this community? Absolutely, Luis. So, our assessment asks a lot of questions, but we do not ask documentation status. So, we have no way of knowing whether somebody's documented or undocumented. We ourselves cannot specifically provide service if we do find out, but there are other agencies or other organizations in the community that can help provide services. And we are, building trust with the community. We don't enforce, immigration laws. So that's not something that we would necessarily even have an issue with.
And also just, reaching out to the consulate for, if they have any answers to questions that we may have to kind of guide us through that process. We do believe in confidentiality. So if we are working with individuals that disclose this information, we do our best to service. We don't, like Martin mentioned earlier, we don't ask for identification. We're just here to serve people. And all we ask for when people come to the care center is to bring themselves. So there's no specific grouping that we serve. We don't just specifically serve individuals in the criminal justice system. Anyone from ages, I believe it's 12 and up, can come to the care center and receive services.
And if I can add on that, Thelma, because that's a very important question, important point, living in San Diego, that there is even well before the law made it such that You know, state government, state actors can't share information about immigration status. Our office policy, our internal policy was always in that vein, at least for as long as I've been in leadership in the office for 2 decades. Our entire victim services section also, which is, you know, when a victim is subject to a crime, we removed every reference to or requirement of documentation of residency to receive victim compensation, which is provided through a state fund that covers medical, mental health, if someone is a victim of a crime, relocation. So all of those services, monetary and otherwise, are provided without any questions asked. The same with our crime prevention efforts. So we want, you know, all 92 participants on this call to make sure that the community knows this so that they can take advantage of these important services.
I also want to mention something really important that the DA's office has been doing and continues to do is to provide educational pieces, public safety talks all around San Diego area. So we have experts, DDAs, deputy district attorneys that actually go out in the community to educate on different topics like anti-bullying in schools, elder abuse, domestic violence, restraining orders, sex crimes, and gang prosecution, and some other really topics that you might be interested in. You can go ahead and just email any of us and we can coordinate to have these presentations happen for your populations in your own comfort in your areas. And now we can do it even virtual. We've been doing it even during COVID, organizing and coordinating for these presentations to take place.
And I see there are a couple folks asking if there's any way that they can volunteer here. And so I think that the best way to volunteer with us would be through the agencies and the community-based organizations that we work with. You can send, once again, I will type in my email address here. And if you are interested in volunteering, send me an email and I'll connect you with some of these agencies that we work with closely. And then we can kind of create a partnership that way. Afra, okay. What are the efforts provided by the Care Center, building bridges of trust between newcomers and law enforcement, also training on cultural competency and social justice to law enforcement and all staff in all LE law enforcement levels, addressing 2 biases? Summer, do you want to field that question?
Sure. So the DA's office took on one of my priorities was this building on de-escalation efforts for law enforcement that include community dignity and cultural competency. And so we worked with the PERT team, which is the psychiatric emergency response team, with other experts, and after holding several, like the Care Center experts talked about, with the community, taking their feedback, de-escalation course for all of law enforcement in a very short period of time, because this course travels. So we're able to, instead of in the past, the de-escalation courses had only capacity to train like 300 officers a year. Because this course travels with a simulator and a training program that travels to the different police departments, we've been able to train now close to 1,500 officers in under a year. And that was even with COVID and all of the obstacles that are provided there. And we anticipate being able to train all 5,000 law enforcement officers in de-escalation, mental health, cultural competency. In addition to that, we don't want to completely destroy the good surprise coming, but watch for a really terrific innovation that Romiana is helping to put together, along with our faith advisory and JJ Anderson, who was the director up to recently and had worked very hard on, that is going to assist in this regard. So we're excited to be announcing that next effort soon.
Thank you, Summer.
Thank you, Summer. And I think if those are all the questions that we have, I do believe we have to close this out 5 minutes early. But if you do have additional questions, if Martin, if you can put up our email addresses, please feel free to reach out and follow up. And we are happy to answer those questions. And, once the world opens back up, happy to also give you a tour of the care center and what it looks like. And thank you all so much for attending and participating and finding out more about the work that's being done with our district attorney's office. And thank you again to Summer for opening this up and giving us the opportunity to do the work that we do to serve our community.
Well, thank you. I know I'm not unbiased, but I think the team here did a phenomenal job. So congratulations.
Thank you.